A Korean man walked into the headquarters of the company his mother built from nothing. No one stood to greet him. No one recognized his face. No one asked his name. He was told to wait in the hallway like a stranger while inside the glass-walled boardroom, the men running his mother's empire laughed and talked about power. 6 minutes passed. 6 minutes was all it took for him to understand that this was no longer his mother's company. But what they did not know was this: those 6 minutes had already sealed their fate. What happens when he stands up? Kwon Jaesung had not set foot in this building for 3 years. He stood on the pavement across the street, looking up at the 42-story tower that bore his mother's name. Kwon Tower. The letters gleamed in brushed steel against the Seoul morning sky, a monument to everything she and Daniel Osei had built together from nothing. But something was wrong. He could feel it before he even crossed the street. The last time he stood here, his mother was still alive. She was the one who had insisted on putting her name on the building, not Daniel's. "You built the vision," Daniel had told her, with that warm laugh of his. "I'm just the man who knows how to read a balance sheet." That was Daniel Osei, a Ghanaian man from Accra who had come to Seoul with nothing but a business degree and a refusal to be made small, and who had never once made Jaesung's mother feel that her ambition was too large for a woman in this industry. Together they had built Kwon Osei Technologies, a clean manufacturing firm that grew from a rented office into a 4 trillion won global corporation. And when Daniel was diagnosed with heart failure 2 years ago, he had made Jaesung's mother promise one thing. "Let the team run it, Soo-yeon. Trust the people we built. You've given enough. Go rest." She kept that promise. After Daniel died, she stepped back from daily operations. She remained the majority shareholder with 51% of the company but let Im Chang-soo, the man Daniel had groomed as his successor, take the wheel. She focused on her foundation. She traveled. She planned to finally sleep past 6 in the morning. She did not get the chance. She died 11 days ago. A stroke. Fast, without warning, without the dignity of a proper goodbye. Jaesung had flown back from London where he was finishing his postgraduate work and sat beside a bed that no longer needed him. He had arranged the funeral. He had received people. He had stood in a suit for 3 days accepting condolences from men who had made money because of her and would not remember her name in 5 years. And then, 4 days ago, an email had arrived in his personal inbox. No sender name. No signature. Just a subject line that read, "They think the son knows nothing." Inside were documents. Financial reports that did not match the ones presented to the board. Internal memos discussing the quiet sale of Kwon Osei Technologies to Daesun Group, one of the largest traditional manufacturing conglomerates in Korea. The same industry his mother had spent 20 years disrupting. The email ended with one line. They scheduled the signing for the week after her burial. They are already celebrating. Jaesung had spent 4 days verifying every document. Every number confirmed. Every signature authentic. Im Chang-soo and Park Rae-won, the CEO and COO his mother had trusted with everything she built, were planning to sell Kwon Osei for 2 trillion won below market value. In exchange, they would receive private stakes in Daesun worth hundreds of billions. A betrayal so total and so cold that it sat in his chest like a stone. He did not announce his visit. He did not call ahead. He simply got in a car from Itaewon, where he had been staying in his mother's apartment surrounded by her things, and drove to Uido where it all began. The revolving doors of Kwon Tower pushed cool recycled air against his face as he entered. The lobby was different. Sleeker. More sterile. The dark wood paneling his mother had chosen herself, she had flown to Japan for that wood, he remembered her telling him, was gone. Replaced by white marble and brushed chrome. And on the walls where his mother's portrait and Daniel's once hung side by side, there was only one face now. Im Chang-soo. Smiling. Comfortable. As if he had built this place himself. Jaesung walked to the reception desk. A young woman looked up at him with the expression that assesses and dismisses in the same glance. Business suit, no design or anything, slightly jet-lagged eyes, nothing that announced who he was. "Can I help you?" "I'm here for the executive board meeting." Her eyes moved across him. "Do you have an appointment?" "No." "I'm sorry, but the executive floor requires prior authorization." "May I ask who you are here to see?" Before he could answer, another man appeared from the elevator bank. Younger, sharp-eyed, wearing the navy lanyard of senior staff. His badge read, Lee Dong-min, Executive Assistant. "Is there a problem?" "This man says he's here for the board meeting but has no appointment." Lee turned to Jae-sung. There was no recognition in his eyes. Why would there be? He had joined the company recently, long after Jae-sung had been a name in the building rather than a face. To him, Jae-sung was just a young Korean man in a plain suit who had wandered into the wrong floor. "Sir, the executive board is in a private session. They cannot be disturbed. If you leave your information, someone will contact you." "I'll wait." Lee hesitated, then gestured toward a row of chairs along the hallway leading to the executive wing. "You can wait over there, but it may be some time. They are in an important meeting." Jae-sung nodded and walked to the chairs. The leather was cold against his back. From where he sat, he could see through the glass walls of the main boardroom. 14 men sat around a long table. At the head sat Im Chang-soo, silver-streaked hair, expensive suit, hands moving as he spoke with the ease of a man who has convinced himself he earned everything in that room. Beside him was Park Rae-won, leaner, harder, the kind of man who only smiles when he is about to take something. On the screen behind them, the Daesun Group logo. The deal was already in motion. Jae-sung looked at his watch. 1 minute. Employees walked past without a glance. Some looked at him and then away, the particular look people give someone who doesn't fit a space. A young man alone in the executive hallway. No badge, no escort. Clearly not someone who mattered. 2 minutes. Through the glass, he saw Chang-soo laugh at something Rae-won said. They were relaxed. Men who had already decided the game was over. 3 minutes. A memory arrived unbidden. 12 years old, sitting on this same floor, different building then, a cramped borrowed office, watching his mother and Daniel Osei eat cold takeaway on the floor because there were no chairs. They had sold the chairs to make payroll. His mother had caught him watching from the doorway and waved him in. "Come eat, Ji-sung-ah. This is what it looks like before it becomes something." Daniel had looked at him with those bright, steady eyes. This company will belong to the people who build value. Not to family names. Not to connections. To the people who actually show up and create something. And if someone forgets that one day, his mother had asked. Daniel smiled. Then you remind them. That's why I need you, Soo-yeon. For minutes. He wondered what Daniel would say if he could see this now. His name removed from the walls. His legacy being sold. His partner's son sitting invisible in a hallway. 5 minutes. Lee Dong-min walked past again, glancing at him with something between impatience and pity. Jae-sung felt the full weight of it settle. Not just the betrayal. Not just the money. The erasure. The way they had removed his mother from the story of the company she built. The way they looked at him and saw a nobody. The way they had looked at her, probably, in those last months when they were already planning this, still smiling at her face while selling the ground under her feet. 6 minutes. He stood up. 2 paths. He could leave. Let the lawyers handle it. Spend months in legal channels while Chang-soo and Rae-won finished their deal and walked away with everything his mother built. Or he could walk through that door. He straightened his jacket. He walked to the boardroom. He pushed the door open without knocking. 14 heads turned. Im Chang-soo's expression moved from irritation to confusion to the first flicker of something he was trying not to show. This is a private session. Who let you? My name is Kwon Jaesung. My mother was Kwon Soo-yeon. She founded this company 22 years ago with Daniel Osei in a borrowed office in Mapo-gu. She held 51% of this company until 11 days ago when she died. I am her sole heir. The room went very quiet. I own this company. He set a document on the table. 1 page. His mother's will, already certified, already filed. And I have read every document in that email. He watched Changsu's face go the color of chalk. The Daesun deal is dead. Effective now. Anyone in this room who was party to those negotiations should call their lawyers before they leave this building. He looked around the table. I will give you 10 minutes to clear the floor. Security will escort each of you out. Park Ryewan stood up. You can't just. I own 51% of this company. His voice was completely flat. The voice of someone who has no interest in an argument. I just did. The rest of that day was a series of calls, legal confirmations, and damage control. He called the chairman of Daesun Group directly. The man was smooth, measured, offering alternatives, a partnership instead of acquisition, an increased price, a suggestion that fighting this would cost more than it was worth. Jaesung ended the call without a farewell. By evening the crisis was contained. The Daesun deal was officially void. The board was suspended pending a full audit. The company's stock had dropped sharply then stabilized when a brief statement confirmed that the founding family had resumed control. But in the middle of all of it, somewhere between the second legal call and a meeting with the head of finance, Jaesung walked down the wrong corridor looking for the bathroom and found himself in a service hallway on the 31st floor. A woman was mopping the floor. She was black. Jamaican, he would learn later, mid-20s, headphones around her neck, moving with the unhurried efficiency of someone who has been doing this long enough to do it well. She looked up when she heard him and immediately stepped aside to let him pass. Sorry, sir. Floor's wet on the left side. He stopped. Not because of anything dramatic. He stopped because she was the first person in 12 hours who had spoken to him like he was simply a person in a corridor. No calculation. No fear. No performance. How long have you worked here? He asked. She blinked, surprised to be asked. 8 months. Do you like it? She considered this honestly. The hours are long. The supervisors are, they were not always kind. A pause. But the work is clean. I like clean work. He stood there for a moment in a service hallway on the 31st floor while his company was in controlled chaos around him and looked at a woman who had told him a true thing simply because he asked. What's your name? Nadia. Then, because she clearly felt the question warranted the full answer, Nadia Campbell. Nadia. He said it once. Then, thank you for the warning about the floor. She nodded. He walked past. He didn't sleep that night. He sat in his mother's office, his office now, a thought that sat badly, and looked at a photograph he had brought from her apartment. Her and Daniel, 22 years ago, standing in front of that first office in Mapo-gu. Both of them young. Both of them smiling. Nothing guaranteed but somehow full of certainty. I kept your promise, Ioma. I let them run it. I trusted them. He set the photograph on the desk. But you also taught me something. You said the company belongs to the people who actually build it. Not to titles. Not to connections. To the ones who show up. 3 days later he called a full company meeting. Every employee. Every floor. Every department, engineers, accountants, department heads, and the cleaning staff who arrived before dawn so the building would be ready for everyone else. He stood at the podium in the main atrium and looked out at 8,000 faces. 4 days ago, I walked into this building for the first time. No one recognized me. I was told to wait in the hallway. For 6 minutes I sat there invisible while the men who were supposed to lead this company laughed and made deals that would have destroyed everything my mother built. My mother did not build this company so that one man could put his face on the walls. She built it with her partner, Daniel Osei, a man from Accra who flew to Seoul with nothing but belief, because they both believed one thing. That value matters more than background. That what you build matters more than your name. He looked at the faces in front of him. Kwon Jaesung Technologies was not built by people who sat in boardrooms deciding who deserved to be seen. It was built by every person in this atrium. The engineers who stayed late. The managers who protected their teams. The people who come in before sunrise so the building is clean and ready. His eyes found Nadia somewhere in the crowd. She was standing near the back, still in her work uniform, watching him with unreadable eyes. This company belongs to the people who create value, every single one of them. 1 week after that meeting, Jaesung sat across from Im Chang-soo's former executive assistant, Lee Dong-min, the man who had pointed him to a chair in the hallway and told him to wait. Lee had not been part of the deal. He had known nothing. He had simply, like so many people, looked at a young man in a plain suit and made a decision before he had any information. "I owe you an apology," Lee said. He was not performing it. His voice was flat with genuine discomfort. "I looked at you and I decided before I knew anything. You were not wrong to not recognize me, you were wrong to assume that not recognizing someone means they don't matter. That is the thing that has to change here. For everyone who walks through that door." Lee nodded. "I need people I can trust, people willing to see things clearly. Are you one of them?" Lee straightened in his chair. "Yes. I am." The new leadership structure took 6 weeks to build properly. He appointed his mother's longest-serving legal director as interim CEO, a woman who had been documenting Chang-soo's irregularities for 2 years without enough power to act on them. She had stayed. She had waited. She had protected what she could. That was the kind of person Kwon Jaesung deserved. He restructured the board. Brought in people chosen for their record, not their relationships. He commissioned a full restoration of the lobby. The dark wood his mother had flown to Japan for was sourced again. Both portraits went back on the wall. His mother's. Daniel's. Side by side. And in the service corridor on the 31st floor, he made one additional change. He created a formal staff recognition program, funded and permanent, for the employees who made the building function before anyone else arrived. He signed the paperwork himself. He put Nadia Campbell's name on the founding committee. She found out when her supervisor handed her a letter and she read it twice before looking up. She came to his office door that afternoon. Knocked. "You didn't have to do that. My mother built this company with someone who was told, repeatedly, that he did not belong in Korean boardrooms," Jaesung said. "He belonged. He built half of everything in this building. You belong here too, Nadia. You've been here before anyone was paying attention." She stood in the doorway for a moment. "Your mother sounds like she was someone worth protecting." She was. He looked at the photograph on the desk. His mother and Daniel, young and smiling, 22 years ago. "I reminded them, Ioma. Just like you taught me." 1 month later, Jaesung was crossing the lobby when a young man, new employee badge, maybe 23, stopping in front of the restored portrait on the wall, turned and saw him. "You're Kwon Jaesung." "I am. I applied here because of your mother. Because of what she built. Because of what you did." Jaesung looked at this young man. The next generation. The ones who would carry this further than either he or his mother could see. Then when you're sitting in a leadership chair one day, remember the hallway. Remember the 6 minutes. See everyone who walks through that door. Ask their names. Treat them like they matter. Because they do. He walked to the elevator. Behind him, the young man turned back to the wall. 2 founders, 1 Korean woman and 1 Ghanaian man, standing in front of a borrowed office in Mapo-gu with nothing but belief and everything still ahead of them. 6 minutes had changed everything. And the man they made to wait in the hallway was now the one writing the future.